I remember when I was 18,
Yes.
man, I left to the Army. I had $40 in my pocket from my last paycheck from Publix.
Shoo.
And I had no idea what I was getting myself into going into the military. I thought it was going to be a smooth ride. And whoa, dude, life taught me a lot.
Yeah. That's just to sink everything. Well, yeah, man. Okay, bet. Bro, it's been...
What's up,
it's
man?
been a fucking while. Dude,
What's up?
This is DragonLand Season 2, Episode 1. Bro, and I'm with my boy. Come on, introduce yourself.
Rico, it's Felix.
What's up, bro? Oh, man. It's been about a year. It's been about a year, I think.
Yeah, it has. It's been about a year, since we last came on here and pretty much touch on a lot of topics, a lot of changes and everything, a lot of good things on the way, really. But I'm very fortunate again, and thank you for allowing me to come on here and being able to start your season on the podcast with everything, and to be able to touch on some good topics, man, and really being able to leave something out there that is not only inspiring people, giving them good content, and giving something to look forward to. So all these things that we're doing, I view it as a thing where you can be able to pay things forward towards people and just leaving an impact, man. And that's kind of where I'm at. So I appreciate you, for giving me this opportunity. Since that whole year from where we left off, I was in grad school at the time and finished that, graduated. It was a very, very grueling and demanding program.
Dude, man, I'm not gonna lie. I've talked shit about of education and the higher process and how things can get expensive for certain people. But again, and that's mainly coming from my own insecurity. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah.
From not feeling like I can achieve certain things like those. But dude, how is that process? Because it seems grueling. It seems excruciating. It seems tear-inducing.
Yeah. Oh, dude, trust me, man. Trust me. There were times of the program that I was like, I don't think I'm cut out for this, bro. Like, I don't think I'm cut out for this. But really balancing, how do I put this? Anyone can do it, and anything you set your mind to, of course, you can do. That's not a question at all. It's really consistency. Throughout the program, I thought that when I came into the program, I was like, I got this, I'm good. You come in with this great drive and this mindset. And then when you really face the obstacle, face to face right there, and you really see truly, ooh, this is actually a lot more demanding than what I thought. And so it taught me a lot. I grew in so many areas, and being exposed to different perspectives of people's theories, people's thought processes, the way people view things. And majority of the students were not only people who were very experienced in their military pathway, but also people from different parts of the world who were able to introduce not just their thought process on how they view things from their standpoint in their country, from their military. And again, these are all, allies of the U.S., that we have great partnerships with. It's like an exchange program. So,
okay. Let's back up a little bit for the people that don't know us. Yeah. What exactly did you study?
Okay, so my master's is in security strategic studies. Okay. Essentially what that program encompasses is being able to not only think strategy, think strategically, understand interests, understand, different types of warfare, understanding history as well. Because believe it or not, when we look at current events right now that are ongoing in the world, for example, let's talk about, either parts of Africa or in the Middle East. These are conflicts that have actually been going on for so many years. And it's new to us, specifically our generation, you and I that we're young. Yeah. We look at it as like, what is this conflict or what is it? But it's honestly been going on in some parts of the world. These kinds of issues have been going on biblical. We're talking spiritual, religious, religious wars, tribal wars, and they're based off of territory and things like that. So the program does a very good job on introducing you to just overall the different realms of, for example, world events. You have in parts of the world being able to understand, for example, how territory and geography plays a huge role in how other countries have strategic interests whether if that's for oil, whether if that's for, specific minerals and resources that help economic growth. And it also teaches you to as well and introduces you to things, for example, of different roles that like maybe you can read upon that are events that are still affecting to this day. For example, immigration, it's understanding, countries that are really going through extremely, extremely brutal, let's say brutal problems, and people are seeking asylum in different areas. Some of this is because of war. We saw that in the time of Ukraine. A lot of people, Ukrainians were seeking, asylum and going to other countries because they were immigrating out, and they were trying to essentially for their safety and their families. They don't want to be in that conflict. So those are things that can happen that teaches you of understanding if this is going to occur in a specific region, then you can assess that these are the secondary, tertiary effects, and what decisions would you make to be able to at least either, not only control the problem, but to be able to at least create a solution to as well.
Okay, so I want to touch upon, like you said, it's really easy for our generation to not really understand that.
Right.
How can you explain it to just anybody? Really, what goes on? Again, like you said, those things that have been happening since biblical times.
Oh yeah, perfect. I understand, and I'll give you a good example. In this particular grad program for my master's, I had to write a thesis. And the thesis, can encompass think of it as a huge research project.
Okay.
And you're grabbing a specific problem setting from a particular part of the world, whether if it's South America, whether if it's the US, whether if it's Europe, whether if it's Africa, Asia, any part of the world, any topic that you are interested in talking about, you do a research project. I mean, let's call it the research project, but in reality, it's a thesis.
Okay.
And you are doing a massive, essentially, research on that topic. And you are trying to answer a research question. So, for example, my topic was essentially how to combat transnational criminal organizations in South America. And with that, it was how can the U.S. effectively be able to assess and not just control the situation, but also diminish it greatly than what it is right now.
Yes.
So transnational criminal organizations within that topic, it encompassed drugs, the war on drugs.
Yes. Okay.
And in my specific study, it was encompassing in Colombia. So within that research, the specific group that I was researching was the FARC. The FARC is called Las Fuerzas Armadas Revolucionarias de Colombia. Okay. So that is a paramilitary Marxist ideology-based guerrilla group. And this group has been essentially very active since the 50s and 60s. And
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. For a really long time.
For a really long time, right. And so they are essentially a organized group that is trying to overthrow the current government that is in place.
Okay.
So,
holy shit.
So think of that internal, internal. So you have the Colombian government and you have a group that is not agreeing with the way the government should be going in that direction. And their ultimate goal is to overthrow the government to initiate their practices and their ideologies of government to be able to then form the country into their based off of their ideology.
Yeah.
So, communism, things like that. And basically in their defense, they're essentially trying to mold the government to function in the manners that they want to.
Okay.
And ultimately that poses a threat, to that population because there's no rights, freedoms. Everything is very controlled, and communism is a threat in that particular aspect when we look deeper into it.
Yeah. Yeah, so, it makes sense, and it goes into things that you say that happens biblically. It sounds like the same stuff that happens in the Middle East, like
right.
So
right. So in that context that you bring up, for example, how you said biblical and religious and whatnot, it's a different problem setting that I was researching in South America.
Yeah, for sure.
But if you correlate it, that parallel that you're looking at is, for example, these type of activities also occur in different parts of the world, to include in Africa or in the Middle East with ISIS, which was the remains of, the Saddam Hussein regime. Yeah, so those activities that we are talking about are essentially what you are establishing that parallel on.
Yeah, and I guess that's where my mind goes to that that extremism.
Right,
that
absolutely. And if you look back on it, like I was mentioning to you earlier, history is such a is not only the greatest tool for us to be able to assess, what is going on, why is this happening, and you learn from it because there are patterns and behaviors in there that teach you why certain things are going on and why groups emerge from these particular problem settings. So if you look historically, there are a lot of people in South America or from South America that when you talk to them, their parents or their grandparents who lived in Colombia know who the FARC is. Okay. The FARC, they would say, that's the guerrilla. That's the guerrilla force. Those were the ones that would go into specific territories, capture certain regions by force, and they would kidnap children, or they would, conduct these atrocious activities on humanity. Yeah. And they would not only take the kids, indoctrinate the kids. Okay. So then the kids grow up into that mindset and they're a part of the guerrilla now. And they go and they basically move forward with that agenda by saying this is the way. And it's horrible, Yeah. And it's still active to this day. So you're probably asking, okay, Rico, what is the point of that? Why did you decide to really encompass that? Well, if you look at it deeply, these groups have a motive. And their motive is to be able I'm talking specifically about the FARC. Okay. We know that the FARC specifically, their motive is to overthrow the government. Yes. But through that, they need something that is going to funnel their income, that is going to give them some sort of source of revenue so they can have weapons, so they can have food, so they can have, the basic necessities to be able to carry those things. Because if you're telling, some guy, hey, come join this group and go do it, like, well, when am I going to get paid? Things like that. So there's more to it, how they influence and whatnot. But what I'm trying to
40 virgins.
So what I'm trying to, what I'm trying to basically establish by saying is that these particular groups, a transnational criminal organization, a TNCO, which is what the FARC is, and is also recognized by not only the U.S. as a threat to national security and whatnot, is their sources of revenue. So the FARC contributes their financial income, and they're one of their financial arms, we can say, is because they devote to so many different type of activities. One of the most common activities that they devote to and that they control and that they profit off of the most is the drug trade. So the FARC, is not only charged with, for example, controlling territory, because you need territory in order to conduct those type of activities. Okay, yeah. And you need farmers, you need people to cultivate, land and all the, the coca leaf and all that stuff. Yeah. So the FARC profits from the illicit agriculture, is what we call it, in cultivating coca plants and all that stuff, by then establishing business partnerships with other transnational criminal organizations such as the Mexican cartels. Okay. So it's a business. Yeah. Yeah. So in order for them to be able to, for example, maintain relevancy, because they need to maintain relevancy, because if they're not making money, they can't do the things that they
have no influence.
Right. Yeah. They have no influence, and to keep expanding and to keep, gaining profit, because they need profit. So the FARC, during the research, historically, like I said, they have been around for so long. They had a very pinnacle point. Okay. They had a low point where they were hitting it hard. The U.S. was very involved in the it was the global war on drugs. Yeah. Where that program, the U.S.
Reagan, right?
Yeah. So during the Reagan administration, that's when that occurred. Oh, that's how you did your reading. Good. You already know, right? You did your reading. I like it. I like it a lot.
I'm goofy, but I'm not stupid.
I got you, man. I got you. Great. So during the Reagan administration, that program, to this day, 2023, we are still seeing it, that there is an active, involvement on the global war on drugs. Yes. And again, all this stuff is, really open source, and it's nothing, really too secret, nothing like that, because you read it in history, where you learn in school, high school, in government and all that stuff. The Pablo Escobar, the Medellin cartel, was active during these times of the global war on drugs. Oh my! Because the Medellin cartel was by far the most powerful, the most active, and the most dangerous cartel in Colombia, because Pablo Escobar had successfully created an empire of not only cultivating and merchandising and commercializing the drug by bringing it not just to Colombia, but externally. So he was being able to essentially successfully traffic drugs, bringing it into Miami. And that's when the whole, cocaine thing started. And, we see the movie Scarface, Godfather, all these things, that era, that era of the Escobar, time where the cartel was by far the biggest threat. I mean, it was on national headlines, and he was, man, I mean, that part of history, man, is crazy because so much occurred. Yeah. And again, obviously, as you can tell, I'm a huge nerd now, and we'll get more into that.
No, but hell yeah. No, me too. I'm just like, but when you piece it together like that, I'm like, that's why I'm like, holy shit. Because when you piece it together like that, yeah, it makes a lot of things make sense.
Right. And we'll get into that, of how this particular business that has been a huge problem on how to control the drug trade and how that correlates a little bit to what we see now today over here in the US, but globally. Yes. Because they have so much reach, to different areas and different partnerships, and they're all connected with different groups. Yeah. Drug trafficking groups don't just have connections with the U.S. I mean, they have connections with all over to other groups in Africa, Europe, mafias, the Russian mob or whatever. Like it's all a business, that they're all interconnected and they profit from it.
Yeah. So it sounds like Breaking Bad really did their homework whenever.
Oh yeah, it's a great show, dude. It's such a great show, man. And it's crazy because that's like just essentially what we see now in movies and what I've seen. It's a glimpse, it's a glimpse, whatever what you see. But in reality, it's a much darker world from what I read, from what I understood, the type of influence they have in certain territories, how much control they have over governments, how much political corruption can exist in a country in South America because of them having ties to these groups.
Well, I mean, my friend is Venezuelan, and that's what he said. He's like, all my people are coming to America because of what's going on in my country with the communism.
Those ways of government, and those are examples of what I was trying to give an example of, like, a certain event that is causing so much difficulty within a society gives motives for that particular population to seek elsewhere. Yeah. We don't have to talk specifically about Hispanics, coming into the U.S. and all that. No, but you see it globally is what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
We're establishing that parallel that we see these kinds of conflicts and emergences of things that occur causes populations to go elsewhere, and there's an influx in that. So the Ukrainian war, other countries within that region, they saw an influx of Ukrainians trying to seek, basically being able to go live somewhere else, man, because they didn't want to be involved in that conflict, and they're trying to find a better way of life.
Yeah. So that's purely human nature.
Right. That's purely human nature. I mean, right now a hurricane comes through here. What are we going to do? If it's really that bad and it's going to be extremely detrimental, you're probably going to leave.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a huge influx of Floridians going up north or somewhere. And it's like, what are we going to do with all these people who lost their house? It's an example,
No, I have a friend. It's funny you say that. There's supposed to be a storm coming this weekend. It not coming anywhere near us, but they left to Texas anyway.
Right. And those are the behaviors that we see, that we associate. You leave, you go, you reestablish and find that stability. Mm-hmm. So with that, bringing it down historically, you mentioned a really good point about Venezuela, for example, and just overall in South America, Operation Just Cause, Panama, Noriega. Mm-hmm. That was, a military general who had complete ties to the drug trafficking business. So that was huge. That alone right there. One of the motives of course, why the U.S. would get involved anyway, but it just is to show you that historically, this global war on drug thing has gone on for more than 50 years.
Yeah.
And so to this day, it is still a complex problem on how to really fix it. Let's just be blunt, to fix it, because it's hard. You can't just find the biggest dude, catch the leader of the group, and it should be over. No, because there's more to it.
Yeah.
The money keeps flowing. Somebody else is going to come in charge, and they're going to keep running that group, and it's just going to keep emerging anywhere. You might, for example, affect it temporarily, and it might affect their activities. But what really would affect them, that I identified in the research that I did, is by going and attacking the financial, let's call it the financial realm of these groups.
Yeah. Okay.
So we call that follow the money.
Nice.
And essentially it would be like counter threat finance. And so what I was theorizing and being able to pitch in my strategic research study of my topic of interest, which was the global war on drugs, is by, after so many years of going after the highest leader of a group and whatnot, it is great and it is necessary to go after that particular leader of that group. But if we just go back for 1 second real quick and we reorganize ourselves and we flip the coin for a second, we flip it to the other side and we look, what's a better way to do this before we go get the big dude, is to attack these organizations financially by freezing, for example, illicit activities on their accounts, money laundering, where they're funneling money to, and all those kind of, nitty gritty things where they're able to conceal their illicit proceeds from drug trafficking into businesses that they are funneling into in territories they control.
It sounds like a Rico.
So for example, FARC in territories they control, right?
Yeah.
They are going to be not only doing drug trafficking, cultivation and all that stuff in those specific areas. It benefits them to control those areas because when they start getting profit, they need to move that profit somewhere.
Yeah.
So they're going to funnel those proceeds in territories they control.
Yeah.
Because they have complete oversight on it. They're not going to do it in an area like, we need to put this money completely. We don't control that territory over there. Yeah. So the research that I was finding out is that the FARC is not only doing this in controlled territories, but they are essentially doing, shell companies, gas stations, for example, to funnel that money in. And the owners of those gas stations have no choice because they're under the control of the FARC. And if they don't cooperate, it can cost them, unfortunately, their lives or, consequences. And that is the control and influence that they have by being able to funnel all this money in areas they control.
Yeah.
In areas they control.
Wow.
They make new trafficking routes. Wow. They make these clandestine, airstrips and whatnot so they can land planes. And they establish their own taxation system, man, which is called gramaje. And gramaje, in the Colombian term that what they call it, it's a tax. It's a tax that they basically input on the product. So if, for example, the client wants the product moved to a specific area outside, and it's going to take the resources of the FARC, their routes, airstrips, vehicles, fuel. They're going to tax it. Yeah. So not only are they are they profiting on the illicit drug activity, but they're also profiting double by having their own taxation system within the business partners that they have to continue the business. Yeah. So that's why the FARC has been historically one of the strongest and one of the most, powerful organizations that have remained intact for that reason, because of the amount of profit they are able to not only receive, control, and to really just keep it all funneled in one area in their control.
Yeah, and again, it's really their influence that keeps them
right.
It's what makes it so difficult to attack the issue.
Right. For example, another thing, to kind of like really sum up the topic a little bit on the whole drug war and everything and whatnot. It is a very complex problem, and it's not really like an all-be-all solution.
No.
But at least to give you a little bit of just an atmospheric and oversight of how much money, moves in this type of industry by these illicit organizations, HSBC was investigated and audited because they were found to have been laundering proceeds for a Mexican cartel that was like over like $400 million.
What the fuck?
And so, that's what they do because they know that they can't introduce those funds into the U.S. because we have a great, banking system regulations. We see all that stuff. But internationally, might not have those same systems and regulations that would consider it a red flag for us to be like, that looks like money laundering. Why is this, little account all of a sudden depositing money over here or things like that?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And they're very smart. They'll use people's identities. They'll use people's social securities, all that stuff to opening accounts. They're not going to open an account under their name, under that, because that's you're giving yourself up. So they make that difficult by concealing themselves with that. And so it goes by the placement, integration, and the layering of how they are going to be laundering their proceeds and then introducing it into the formal economy. Once they have laundered that money, then they have it introduced into the formal economy, for example, such as $50,000, very small number, right? And they're trying to launder that specific proceeds. They're going to label it, for example, probably as a maybe a cost of like shipping containers, or for, you know, expenses of a business, or for goods, you know, like oranges or whatever that they're importing and exporting. These are just very minimal examples because I'm trying to, you know, piece it together so you guys know essentially on how they make it possible. Then once that's done, it's integrated into the formal economy, and then that's when they spend on, you know, boats, cars, mansions, all these things, and whatever, you know, like all the crazy things that you'd see in Narcos. Exactly that. Money laundering is how they do it. They have to clean the money somehow. It's in the term. They got to clean it somehow to make from the dirty means of where it came from to make it clean so it looks official. So
and then again, that's where the shell companies and all the things.
Yeah, you know, and so they're manipulating systems to essentially do that. Now, it's a hard topic to really be able to, it's like, wow, you pitch it so great, but in reality, there's more to it.
Oh, of course.
Because, you know, once you stop it somewhere, it doesn't mean that it's going to stop for the rest of the organization. They have these expert accountants. They have all these people who it's a crazy, crazy, crazy industry, man, of how powerful and how organized they are. I saw an article the other days too as well of just presenting how well funded and how powerful these cartels are, for example, where they have crazy up-armored vehicles, crazy, you know, like weapons and all these things, man, almost like the military. And it's like, Jesus Christ, dude. Like, you know, like they're not even the size of a U.S. military, but they are funded greatly because of the things that they do allows them to not only secure their operations, but it truly makes it difficult to making it a threat, man. And these organizations, they're right across the border outside of the United States. So this comes in and out into the United States. So that's, you know, that whole little spiel really on it, on what the thesis encompassed of. And I chose to do Latin America because I'm very passionate about that particular area.
Heck yeah.
I love it a lot, man. I was very fascinated by, you know, not just watching Narcos, watching Scarface as a kid, you know, all those things, all those little good movies,
and then you hear the rappers, I'm pushing bricks. Well, this is where they fucking come from.
Well, you know, man, they probably got ties, you know, probably there's some bad people, but again, you know, that's where the product comes from. You know, that's where the product comes from. This isn't to say that, you know, that type of cultivation or whatever doesn't occur in the U.S. I mean, we see how agencies and whatnot are able to go into a huge cocaine lab, for example, and like that stuff also happens within the U.S. too as well. However, it's more so of a major nuisance in South America because we're talking masses and masses and masses of just land that is the triple canopy, you know, jungle, and under that is where they're operating, you know, labs, all that stuff, you know, all those containers and labs and just material that they use to make the drug to then push it out. Everything. It's crazy industry, man.
And you have firsthand experience in those jungles yourself, right?
Yeah. So
how is that?
So, you know, man, like first and foremost, you know, Colombia is a beautiful, you know, a beautiful country. I really, you know, love the experience over there and really seeing that and kind of just being able to see how the Colombian government and the military really has adopted their practices on being able to do those things. It's impressive, man. It's impressive. Like they have a huge, you know, agenda and battle that they are doing and that has been going on for so many years, and it's only getting bigger and bigger and bigger throughout how these organizations are just becoming just as deadlier, and they're becoming smarter. You know, now when they're pushing out, for example, their products, they're not just pushing it out up through trucks or whatnot up the U.S. Man, these guys are sending submarines. I don't know if you saw, you know, like it was a viral video that was on Instagram. I saw that the Coast Guard had basically detected a submersible vehicle that was coming in on the water, and when they got up close to it, man, it was a drug trafficking submarine. It was viral, man. It had like over I think like 25,000 pounds of cocaine or something crazy, dude.
I probably saw it and I was like, that's not real.
Something crazy, dude. It was crazy, dude. But
sounds insane.
But it's to tell you how complex this problem is, because you're dealing with someone that is able to innovate, adapt, and understand if this route didn't work, then we got to adapt this way to get the product. And their goal is just to get the product into the United States and around the world, globally, because that's what they're going to profit from.
They're essentially a company. They're a company. They're just not.
Yeah, so they're sending, you know, a huge submarine full of drugs, man, and they're just going over there. And the thing is that it's like leveled with the ocean too, as well as it's going. So you wouldn't be able to really detect it because it's like flowing within the water. But under the water is where the actual, you know, you see the actual structure of the vessel because they're smart. Why are we going to build up a second boat, for example? Why are we going to build up on a boat? Because it's going to look just as sketchy. So they're going to do it at night, and they're navigating the oceans at night with this super low profile, submarine that is just, coasting through the ocean and hopefully makes it through to the Gulf of Mexico or something, comes in through Florida. Wow. And next thing you know, you have a massive $40 million worth of cocaine coming into Florida that is soon to be dispersed out throughout the U.S. That's the complexity of just one instance of, I can't imagine how many routes or how feasible they make it do, but it's that's the threat. So now we see fentanyl. Fentanyl is a major threat, and that's what's coming out now, where mixing that type of fentanyl drug into all their other products and cocaine is what's causing this opioid crisis where people are overdosing and all that stuff, man. Wow. We're seeing it. I think there was a case in North Carolina that I saw, man. It was all over the news. It was a freshman out of college, man, North Carolina, and he had overdosed on fentanyl, man. And like 20 years old, dude, and it's like that's what's killing the youth. Literally killing people. Oh yeah, killing people. Just off of one thing that they're doing. Well, and that's what they're profiting off of.
There was a police officer that all she did was touch it.
Oh, I actually heard about that. Yeah, crazy, right?
That's insanity.
Crazy.
That makes no fucking sense.
Crazy, man. You have law enforcement and people who are essentially dealing with this face to face. Directly to the root.
Fuck a zombie.
Criminals and whatnot, and they are exposed to it. And that's crazy that you bring that up because that's true. That is the level of extremity that we are seeing of this particular threat with fentanyl, man, and that stuff. So it's just, get a huge monopoly, man. It's a monopoly. At the end of the day, to them, it's a business,
Yeah, to them, it's a business. To us, it's a crisis.
Yeah, for them, for tunnels, all these things that they're doing, man, they're sending products everywhere. But anyway, that's kind of really like summing it up on
now I can understand
that particular topic.
That crazy idea when somebody's like, just make all the drugs legal. Now I know why, because all that goes through their mind. So they're like, "Fuck! If we make it legal, at least we can control it."
Well, the problem is, man, is like
insane,
so here's the thing, man. Here's the thing. A lot of people, they say, we'll just legalize drugs, and it's like don't think that might be the solution because I don't think we need 18-year-olds or even younger walking around. I have heroin,
heroin dude. Lollipop.
Dude, there's gotta be like some or like fentanyl and whatnot. Dude, I have nieces. I got family.
Sure.
And
my son, I don't want him to grow up in a world where he can go to the gas station and get.
You don't want them going to middle school, do next, and say, let's run this fentanyl. What
bro? The fuck?
What? That's the threat, that we see, yes, of course, where it goes all the way down to that. So it is a huge problem in that sense. Now, with the whole legalizing these other, these drugs, for example, there's been such hot topics that I've seen on articles and in the news of, is legalization really the way of legalizing cocaine, for example? Really the way to do it? Well, here's the thing. To a certain extent, it might alleviate the problem for a little bit.
Yes.
But what that shows then to those groups is that, you see, they have no choice and they can't deal with it but to legalize it.
Yeah.
So you win.
Yeah.
They win. They win. But they lose profit because then now, what's the point of, trying to traffic drugs or cocaine, for example, if it becomes legal in South America or whatever, they're going to lose profit on that. But then there's still other things that they're going to do.
Yeah, of course.
But it's to show you that the influence and power that they have of literally just bombarding certain areas with a drug crisis will force governments to, for example, legalize it or whatever, and that's a win to them. Yeah. So there's two perspectives that I'm presenting to you, man, because this is just one perspective that I present to you. The other one is that people might think, well, no, we should do this, we should do that. So again, there's just what I try to always pitch and what this led to and my passion, because I really am passionate about this stuff and I like continuously studying about it, is that what I try to always, and I learned this from a professor too as well who taught me, and I will never forget it because it told me, you can look at a problem and you can pitch, oh, this is the way we should do it, and it might make sense at that moment, but what you also have to understand is think of a spider web, right? You got the spider web also around you. Maybe you could draw this around, on a little spider like.
Yeah, right. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try.
You're gonna see something. Anyway, so you'll have the spider web, and if you do something here to it, understand that particular activity or decisions you are making can affect other areas of the spider web to shake and vibrate. And I'll never forget this to this day of that professor. These are called the fractures and fissures. Okay. The fractures and fissures are essentially where you identify the small fractures in a problem setting and you say, okay, maybe if we fix this crack, but if we do something here, maybe something over here can affect that little fracture, So you got to understand, man, that there's always just not always this is the all be all problem solving, and this is it. Because later on, maybe down in the long run, that decision may no longer be relevant, and you have to adapt and innovate to be able to fix it in a certain way. It's a constant evolving thing. Sense. And that's what it comes to, the program being specifically of security studies, security strategic studies of, problem settings like this. Understanding that it is going to be a constant evolving problem of being able to take problems and, addressing it this way, but then something might happen. You got to it's adaptation and evolving. Yeah. Strategy is hard. Not everything works. We see now all over the news how much of a threat, China is. That's a constant topic all over the news too as well. So it is hard because
the new denomination, the new money that they're making.
Yeah, trying to
currency,
to establish, essentially their currency to be able to, have that be the main currency around the world. That's that's very competitive. How do you
feel about that?
Well, I guess the big question really that I have is that how do you compete with that? Yeah. That's the biggest question because then you have, a country like that who is very economically strong.
Yes.
And they are like I said, I'm sure there are many ways we can dissect this problem so much on this topic, but it's like to be able to just understand from a glimpse of what I'm trying to present to you is that how do you compete? It's hard.
Yeah, it's very hard.
How do you compete? You can't, because you have one that is extremely powerful, just like you, who is spending so much money around the world in South America, Central America. And you see this in articles, man. You see this in South American, news medias that they're saying that, they're building all these things and everything and whatnot, just essentially reviving the economy in countries in South America that have been struggling in poverty and whatnot. Yeah. And they get in these business deals with China, man, and they just build and build and build and build and build and build and build, which in a way is helping that country. But then you also got to understand they have a return on investment and they have a purpose as to why they're doing things. Yes. And they are there for a reason because they're trying to increase their presence. Yeah. So it's great power competition, which are things that you also learn in these programs of understanding of how nations compete. Whether if it's resources, whether if it's this and whatnot, is warfare really the way that we need to go after to be able to solve certain problems? Makes a lot of sense. What are the secondary and tertiary effects of with going to war for a certain country? How is this going to affect other parts of the world? Again, the spiderweb theory that we were talking about, So again, when that was taught to me, dude, I blown away. I was like, I was literally in there like, what the fuck?
Literally, because then all the connections start. You're like, holy shit! Yeah, that's the reason why you do this. They're doing this in Africa to disrupt this over here in South America.
Yeah, man, and you'll have things that you read about too as well. It's like, again, I love talking about these topics, but like for example, maritime, everything about routes in global trade. Okay. So much comes in through boats.
Yes.
We have to have boats come into the Panama Canal because it's the most easiest and most feasible way to get things from one place to another around the world. But think about it. Like if a war is going on in Taiwan, just think of how much that would affect the trade routes and the routes of these vessels that are bringing in goods to all parts of the world, to the U.S. and South America, because that area, we're talking about the Pacific.
Yeah. Okay.
All that Indo-Pacific region would be affected because it would be an area of war. Yeah. So then it's like all these things possibly have to get rerouted in a different area, causing products and trade to potentially even become delayed, not coming as quickly, costing even more.
Well, one of the hugest things that we had with gas in the Ukraine.
Perfect example. Perfect example. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Even though it does not have to be, even though it is not directly a conflict, with like the U.S., because the U.S. is not out there, like bombing and everything.
Yeah, no.
There's no troops, like crazy troops on the ground, but like wasn't like Iraq,
Exactly.
But it affected a lot of things. Yeah. It affected the transportation of goods because of these conflicts that occur around the world will affect other areas around the world.
That's what a lot of people fail to understand.
Yeah, why is gas going?
Blame it on DeSantis or something.
Why is gas getting so high? This or whatever. And it's like it's understanding sometimes that you just got to look at it from a higher viewpoint and understand and see. And it's okay. Like I said, I didn't know these things majority of the time because I was just like, oh, that's just the way it is.
It's complicated,
right? It's just the way it is, but it's not. It's understanding. I'll tell you the truth. That professor broke it down Barney style because I'm not as brilliant.
No, I was gonna say let's start start using Barney words because we're getting complicated.
Yeah, but I was over like, this is wild, bro.
This is insane.
So again, understanding that concept to be able to really see like, whoa, like this this really does imply that a lot of other things will be affected.
Yeah.
So that's essentially what the program taught me.
Nice,
what the thesis was about. What I decided to talk about, what I decided to research, and I'm very passionate about it, man, because it's not just in South America, it's also in the Caribbean. You know, there are so many island hopping routes that they do. They jump from little islands from here to there, from here to there, from here to there. You know, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Jamaica, all these countries, you know.
It makes sense.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Cuba, you know, are all of these places that have a geographic advantage because of where they are located and having so much clearance to making it into Florida.
Jesus.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's just one side. Mexico, different story. Way different story. You know, tunnels.
The tunnels.
All this, everything.
Yeah. Oh my
That's what I'm
gosh.
saying. An industry that is so profitable that they are able to fund their activities. Because without the profit, they can't make the tunnels as efficiently. They can't have the equipment. So they need to make sure that whenever they're doing all these things and just bombarding countries with drugs and whatnot, they don't care because they're making all that profit to then innovate their business to then like, now we're going to start pushing it in this way.
And
So-
I want to say, yeah, they move a lot like a company, but they move a lot like government, like a government would. Like,
Yeah. So when they go into these regions, for example, we'll hit back on Colombia too as well, and we'll talk about FARC because it's what people have been, you know, what we've introduced here for people to understand is that they establish their own manners of government in the areas they control.
Makes sense.
So just because Colombia might have their own, you know, government that they have established, that it is recognized, that the people, you know, understand and whatnot, in those rural areas, isolated areas where it is dependent on farming, you know, all these lower areas, they are governed by these insurgencies, by these terrorist organizations, you know. So that's where they're able to then influence, manipulate, control populations to do. It doesn't matter what you guys think about government and whatnot. We are the government here, and this is how, and it's very unfortunate because you see that control is what allows them to take away farmland, to take away cattle, kidnapping, extortion. I gave you the example of drug trafficking, but they also contribute to another financial arm, which is of, for example, kidnapping, extortion. So that right there is just another source of revenue that we're talking about.
Jesus.
That is a lot of money.
That makes a lot of, the human trafficking. That's that's what they say, a lot of money.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Crazy.
That's horrible.
So then with that, after that program, man, I loved it, dude. I loved it. I fell in love with it. I fell in love with, you know, just really learning so much more. Specifically me, I love the Central and the South American region.
Yeah.
I have a huge passion for like reading about like the Mayans and the Aztecs and all that stuff and everything.
Dude,
I'm very intrigued with that kind of stuff.
All right, so give me something crazy that the Mayans used to do. Just something wild.
I think personally, because I do read about this on my own.
Because I'm pretty sure I read a little, but yeah, what are your perspectives?
So like, well, it's crazy because after this program that I'm doing now, I'm doing my PhD right now.
Nice.
Yeah, so,
Dr. Rico.
Yeah, man, it's working. I appreciate it. But not yet, not yet. That's still coming soon, God willing and working out. But like I decided to take the study of what I was studying in the drug trade over into this program that I'm in and being able to understand it and just, like being able to study it to a greater depth. That's really how passionate I'm about it.
Wow, nice.
But now we're opening up, a can of worms of, the Aztecs and the Mayans.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
We'll change it up and switching it up towards people. I don't know about you, man, but like there's been a lot of hot news and topics that have been found by archaeologists and scientists recently. I mean, did you see the most recent thing that came out that Mexico showed like these alien bodies to, like their Congress or something?
Okay, so
and I was like,
what?
Yo, what?
I'm like, and my girl was like, they look like ET. I was like, because they beam images into our minds, guys. Like, they need us to know what they look like. So when they start presenting them, we don't freak the fuck out.
Yeah, man, you don't freak out because it's a topic that's already been introduced. Oh, those are the aliens. They came out. It's just like, wait, what?
Wait, what? And then they were like, oh, and one of them might have eggs. And then they ended it. And then I was like, wait, what?
I think, man, honestly, like, so now that we're opening up the topic really on like, science and like, the Mayans and the Aztecs and everything and whatnot, I think we are in such a pivotal time in humanity, man, because technology has influenced our let's call it our life, dude. Like, technology has influenced our life so much. Like, look at how much artificial intelligence, AI, has changed everything completely. Right?
Yeah.
So quantum computing, all these other things that are coming out, man, that is just not only making life faster, producing things faster, like it's, soon enough, I'm going to pull up my watch and the hologram's going to come up, scrolling up, whatever. Like, nah, man, AI says this, goes down. Like, literally. Some Star Wars shit,
I was saying I need a Jamie. Soon I'm not going to need a Jamie to run the other half of the podcast.
Perfect example. Here, let's touch on this so we can talk, because we're going to mesh it together.
Let's do it.
15 years ago, we were all dependent on cable. Direct TV. Do you remember Bright House?
Bright House?
Do you remember Bright House?
What? You mean Spectrum?
Dude, Bright House, all those things, Direct TV, CenturyLink, everything.
Oh my, CenturyLink was my first cell phone provider.
We thought Cricket, all these things.
Oh my God.
We thought that on that time of having TV cable on demand and everything was, man, life is great and whatnot. Matt. Now we don't even need cable.
No.
Now all we need is just internet.
I don't have cable. I have only internet.
I don't either. I have internet only. I have internet only, and that's how much time has really changed to evolve us on how technology has really freaking steered us into another direction where we are almost dependent of it. Now you go into a house, everything is internet based.
Yeah.
That's it.
Alexa, turn on my light. Let me not, because she'll turn on my light.
Next thing you know, the whole thing's going to shut down and we're going to come back. Sorry.
All right, my bad.
Yeah, we had a blackout. But
Alexa shut down the whole block.
Shut my power grid, something crazy. But anyways, it's that particular concept for you to understand that, bro, we are constantly evolving and changing, and changing, that are just introducing things. This right now, I can't imagine how much equipment and how much things were probably needed to make a podcast 40 years ago on a radio host. You'd probably needed things on the walls and those massive tape recording things that are going like this,
thousands of dollars,
radio and whatnot, everything, airtime. Oh
my gosh.
Now you're doing a podcast from the convenience of your own place.
And honestly, guys, it's less than $1,000 of equipment, including everything almost, really.
So, but it's an perfect example, man. Things have gotten smaller and better, but the point about this is that, again, tracing it back to the Mayans and the Aztecs and all these things. I read a lot of books about all this stuff. I remember in school when these topics were nah, aliens aren't real, whatever. Dude, it's not that I believe that an ET thing is going to come out and have the shiny finger. It's the simple fact of we are uncovering things from our past that we are now finally beginning to understand.
Ooh,
so we used, and so what the main part of this is about that I've been reading about is that we used to have this concrete understanding of potentially the age of the pyramids in Egypt.
Okay, yeah.
The certain pyramids that are found in Mexico, of the Inca temples, the Mayan temple, the Aztecs, all those stuff.
Yeah.
Now, technology has allowed us to understand and see we've been wrong.
Oh, yeah.
That these pyramids are actually older than what we said.
Fuck.
So
yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I remember. I can't remember. Seeing something like that.
Technology. Yep. So technology now plays a pivotal role where we are able to, for example, walk around with this sonar thing that penetrates through the ground to find temples and pyramids that we couldn't find 80, 100 years ago because these guys in Egypt were brushing with, a little brush and whatnot and seeing, all the equipment. Literally. Now you got a guy who runs a radar and goes hey man, the iPad right now is picking up a huge structure under the ground. Let's dig here. That is what I'm trying to say is that humanity is in a huge pivotal role of truly discovering not just our roots, where we come from, understanding the story of what you and I used to learn in school.
Holy shit.
To what really is actually we've been wrong and this actually dates back further.
It makes sense.
Wild. History, I'm a huge believer. I don't know about you, but I'm a huge believer that history repeats itself. Yes. Why do I say this?
Yeah.
The Apollo 13 mission.
Okay.
The space race.
Okay.
You know?
Oh wow, yeah.
Kennedy, all this stuff. we were striving to really be not just competitive with all the others around us on Earth, but to really break that threshold on we're leaving this place and we're gonna go explore the heavens. And once we leave this Earth, are gonna be the next Martians in the other viewpoints of wherever we go.
Yeah,
now again,
true,
Martians, people are probably like, bro, this guy's wild, bro. This is wicked. What is he talking about now? What I'm trying to say is that we are in a pivotal time frame of humanity where we are now exploring further than not just Earth, but outside.
Yeah.
So what is happening now? The space race. Look at SpaceX.
SpaceX.
History repeats itself.
It's fucking doing it.
We have we have people who
shit.
are very innovative and they're passionate, man. And I love following these, these missions and things that they're doing because they are truly, Elon Musk is a great example of truly trying to really push the limits on how far humanity is going to go and where we should go.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't limit ourselves.
No.
Limitless.
It makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of fucking sense. And it goes into what I like to say is humanity is in the middle of a renaissance.
Right.
This is a new renaissance.
It is a new era.
Yeah,
it is essentially a new era from what we first started. Take this for example. And again, I love pitching these things, man, because I'm a very nostalgic person. I like vintage stuff.
Yes.
I like typewriters. I like all these little like gadgets and whatnot that are really cool for decoration and whatnot.
Very tactile.
But look at it right now, dude. Back then, you remember you had a Sidekick XL from T-Mobile? That thing would come out, dude.
BlackBerry, bro.
Yeah, you had everything, man. That was the shit.
Yeah.
That was the shit.
Yeah.
Now you've got something that does the Face ID and everything, and it uncovers it all. And again, these topics are probably not new to everyone, whoever is listening. Yeah, we got that. We see it. But it's to show you the pattern of how much we are evolving.
Yes.
And to the point that really technology is now, we are guiding technology to a certain extent because we are experimenting. But in my opinion, technology is taking us by the hand and pulling us like this,
literally,
because it's like, buckle up, dude.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa.
We kind of did that to ourselves. We did that.
Absolutely.
We made technology so powerful to the point where it is the ultimate tool.
Yeah. From a military standpoint, yes, 100%. Technology plays a huge role in the military, from defining people's health and wellness, like they need to go to dental, whatever, things like that. Like it's that type of stuff.
Wow.
Back then, I'm sure, I ask people who are retired from the military, hey, how would you guys get this done? Everything. Oh, we had to send runners. They had to send someone to go relay a message, to go this, to go relay the message, to go get that, to go do that, to go do this and that,
Yeah.
Now everything's through email.
Fuck.
Now, you can make
you could secure a line.
Now military capability with technology has not only evolved us to be able to see what's going on the ground.
Wow.
I mean, you see it on TV.
Yeah.
Drones.
The drones, and you see little people running around.
And you see all the people running. Here I am. Running out there and like,
Ramboing and shit.
Yeah, it's like, oh, there goes Rico. Whatever. But there
Holy
goes
shit, I know that guy.
The green little toy soldier from Toy Story, out there. Oh, Roger that, sir. Something crazy. But, that's the extent. Yeah. So I'm really intrigued, and I'm actually very fascinated because sometimes I feel like we're not ready to really take that leap.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I feel like, are we really, going in the right direction? It's like, can this be very pivotal? And can this be very, how to explain it, beneficial for humanity in a way of introducing, new technologies? What do you do? What do you do when we essentially uncover or just introduce something that changes everything? That changes everything. So
I feel you. And that fear is, again, it could be the other way. Is this going to be beneficial, or are we going to fucking destroy ourselves?
Perfect point that you bring up. Because I really do wonder sometimes, I forgot his name anywhere right now, but I believe an astrophysicist. I forgot his name right now. Okay. He was on the Joe Rogan podcast, but what he was saying is that astronauts, when they would go to outer space and they would go to the ISS, and the ones that would go to the moon too as well, they were able to convey and experience a sort of behavioral change.
Okay.
That they viewed Earth differently. Like, it changes you.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it changes them, like, wow. That's that little dot. That's where we're at. Like, and it's like, why, and it's like, so here, let me put yourself in these shoes, because it blew me the fuck away. Yeah. you know, and it humbled me a little bit to a sense to really understand, like, man, we really are that small.
Well,
you know,
I went to Cali, and I was spending all day in LA, on Long Beach, going around.
Yeah.
I was enjoying my life. When I came back to Florida, I couldn't help it. I was like, yo, this shit is podunk. Like, I was so used to being, like, I got so used to being in such a big city.
Right.
That when I came to Kissimmee's airport and drove down Osceola Parkway, I was like, fuck, there's so many trees here for. Like, like, it was so weird.
It's crazy.
So I can't imagine standing from the moon looking down to the earth.
Looking down to earth and really seeing, you know, like from what he was saying is like, you know, how vulnerable, you know, we really are.
Yeah.
How vulnerable, that perspective, you know, that they have that nobody experiences. I don't experience it, you know, but like I read into it, and it's just the thought of what I'm trying to tell you and people that are listening is like, just think of that for a second, man. Like, you're leaving Earth, you come out and you see it, and you're just like, wow, you know, like it might change, you know, like that's home. That's what that one little speck, that one little thing, like my house is somewhere there, you know?
Yeah.
And like,
my family's there,
are, and
my friends.
And by our nature, we are constantly at war, you know, fighting with each other. Everything is, you know, and it's looked at as like we view it as like, you know, well, we're here. It's like, well, that's going on over there.
Yeah.
But from a broader spectrum, this is Earth, this is you over here. Yeah. You're looking at it, man, this is a very, you know, conflicted. A lot of things go here. A lot of things are going on in this area. A lot of like, you know,
tiny little blue dot.
Yeah, and this is a lot of war. You know, this species, I can't imagine if like we were to be, for example, like observed by some sort of alien something in space and was really looking at us, and it's like, yo, this species is wild. I mean, these dudes nuke each other. These dudes obliterate each other, you know, like this.
They really go crazy.
These people go ham, you know, and they produce technology every year. They, you know, produce things that really like these people. This is great, you know,
literally.
Like this is innovative, you know, but to a certain extent. Now let's flip it for a second. Mm-hmm. That is coming to visit us. We are like, whoa. Where did you guys come from?
Literally.
And that's it, right. And so then that right there contradicts our data and understanding of what we have of physics, because when something shows up and it's not normal, like how you and I, it goes past our datum. It goes past our understanding and the laws of physics maybe that we have established and things like that. Very interesting perspectives.
Yeah.
I don't mean to get, you know, so like,
I was like, what the fuck are they teaching you in that college?
Bro, so this specifically is stuff that I stay up sometimes and I'm just like, you know, reading, you know, and my lady comes like, what are you reading? And it'll be like some weird like alien book, and I'm just like,
do you really want to know?
This shit is crazy, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, but it's cool, you know, it's very educated because sometimes I true wonder, reeling it back into where we officially first started with the Aztecs and the Mayans, is what is to be uncovered?
Literally.
You know, what is to be uncovered by archaeologists and scientists that devote their passion and their understanding of history?
Yeah.
Because here's another crazy line that I've heard that I love. It's dope. We only understand life backwards, but we are forced to live it forward.
Oh, wow.
You know?
Yeah.
And so that exactly is very pivotal in the sense that we have no choice. In order to understand us, we have to go back and piece together history so we can tell the story.
Yeah.
In order for us then to understand how can we make decisions that could potentially, you know, give us better good. Yeah.
Well, and that
affect us positively.
That goes into what you say. History repeats itself, and it is a good. And again, it repeats itself in different ways. So it's not going to be the same exact thing. Obviously.
Right.
So then you get to learn from your past mistake. Oh, we're reaching the space race again. Are we going to turn it into World War III? Are we going to turn it into another Cold War? Are we actually going to work together and actually get wherever we're trying to get to?
Is that step that we are bound to take really potentially what's going to unite humanity to go explore outside of this earth? Or is it going to bring us into more conflict?
Exactly.
And just how you said, you know, is it going to be the next Cold War? Are we going to have to then be, racing against who's going to make it out there first and whatever? And it's going to be a huge conflict. And these are just predictions. We're just thinking this is just like, is this possible? But again,
because it's what happened.
For example, history repeats itself, like how we have said here too as well, right? World War II. The U.S. was in 2 wars against 2 actors in 2 different axes around the earth. For example, we were at war with Japan, and when we went to war with Japan, Adolf Hitler declared war on the U.S. So that's 2 wars right there. Yep. Where am I going with this? Is this potential threat that we are seeing with China a repetition in history where we go to war with China and then Vladimir Putin declares war on the U.S.?
Yeah.
Crazy thought. But it comes to, it's
not even that crazy because that's exactly how people are already seeing it.
Right. And so it just kind of makes you think, could it be something that again, we don't want to repeat history like the Great Depression.
Exactly.
We don't. I don't want to go through that. I read about it in history. I can't imagine what it was like during that time frame. Can you imagine a Great Depression right now in the U.S.? How
when they talk about it would be, how all the teenagers would run away because they can't live at home with their parents anymore. It's like when you really think about that, like what the fuck? Those hippies were insane.
Crazy.
I can't imagine being 18 years old and leaving my parents' house.
Right. So that's why sometimes I'm so fascinated with history and about specific topics. I'll be honest. There are some things I really don't like reading about in history that I'm just like, this is whack.
Of course.
But if there's one thing I've learned about education, I'm going to leave it with this so we can really touch on the whole Mayan topic and everything because I do love it. Yeah. But we'll hold that thought. The most important thing that I have learned about education, now being in a PhD program and, being at that peak right there to hopefully achieve that, is that I wish I would have understood the perspectives of the teachers earlier in my education that they were presenting to me.
Wow.
Because, for example, that art teacher or that history teacher I had in sophomore year in high school who was teaching me about the Roman Empire or all that stuff, I wish I would have paid attention probably a little bit more harder to those fundamentals that they were telling me. Because now in the program that I'm in, where it demands a lot of research, it demands, great construction of a research question, of an abstract. I wish I would have understood that all that plays a pivotal point in my understanding that I have now today.
Yeah.
For example, such as, now I'm learning about how the Roman Empire established their own way of government, and the Roman Empire was so strong that they had to divide the power. And they had to send people that they chose as leaders to represent the Roman Empire in different parts of the region that they were,
ambassadors.
And exactly. Don't we do that today?
Yeah. It's fucking
I wish that, and again, this probably comes with maturity, wisdom, and everything, and just having that understanding because we're young, dude. We had class together.
Yeah. I remember
we had class together,
in the class that I was in with.
Yeah, either you were sleeping, I was talking too much, whatever, or sometimes I wasn't paying attention,
vice versa,
or I was, like, oh yeah, this is great, and you're over here like, dude, you're a nerd,
Yeah, well, I mean, you're still my friend.
But like those are things that like I view that it's like those particular things that maybe teachers are trying to introduce to us,
exactly.
And we're slowly maturing and we're slowly growing to understand that now when you get into these realms of higher education, as you grow, you begin to understand, so this is why maybe this is what it is. This is where we develop the principles of government. This is where we develop the principles of if the U.S. is going to maintain a presence elsewhere, then we should have ambassadors.
Yeah.
People who represent the U.S. on behalf of the president, on behalf of those things. So it is very, I'm going to be honest, badass that those principles that we learned in history of, let's call it groups, empires, that they did, we adopted, and other parts of the world have adopted to as well that make it functional, and we still see today.
Yeah, well, it's funny that a lot of people they compare the United States to the Roman Empire, and they're the United States is going to
great thought to the extent of understanding that those principles are probably ones that we hold to this day on how we do things.
Yeah, exactly.
Legal. So the Roman Empire was so smart and so organized that you had to go. They had a court system.
Yeah,
they had judges. Things like that. We have that today.
Yeah.
I'm just basically aligning small things to people to be able to understand that back then in high school, you probably like, man, forget the Roman Empire. Why do I need to know this?
I don't give a fuck about
I remember,
I know about that.
I remember when I was probably that ignorant little student that I was just like doing the homework just cause and turned it in to ensure that I had a good grade. And I was just like, I'm just doing it just cause. But really now I understand the deep meaning and thought behind it, because now I'm like, man, I'm finally connecting the dots.
Yeah.
And I'm finally seeing where this came from. So in a nutshell, all of education, as you're growing and increasingly having a greater understanding, you're pursuing your bachelor's, great, do it. You're pursuing a master's, that demand of that is going to require you dig deeper.
Damn.
Dig deeper and connect that dot. When you get to that doctoral level, you're really not only assessing what you connected, but now build something off of it.
Yeah. No, like we were talking about before, I don't know if it was on the pod or before, but when you are now researching in your PhD and your doctor is what a student is going to use in his freshman level paper to prove whatever he's trying to prove.
Perfect example. You hit the nail on the head exactly with that, because when you do, for example, a thesis, people look at it as like, man, you got to write like this 80-page paper or something or more in reality. But in reality, those references and those sources that you are looking after to build your paper when you were doing your bachelor's is off of the work of other people that you are going on to find those sources and find those things. Well, look, hey, this researcher said this. Well, this researcher said this over here. Well, this is that. These are people that have studied probably to a greater depth what you are probably researching and what you like. And that gives credit to when you are sourcing something, make sure you give credit where you got your citation from and your source. I understand that now. Yeah. Because because you are directly referencing someone's work to their theory, their hypothesis, and they completely figured it out to support what it is you might be talking about. To answer your question, yes, I hope and I aspire that what I write in my dissertation and what I convey down the line with this program, I'm still researching and I'm still thinking of some things that I'm very interested of. But one of the things that I'm very, very, very passionate and interested about in writing in this particular dissertation, mine is in criminal justice, with an emphasis of homeland security.
Okay, wow.
So understanding, really like the internal domestic level things to essentially, defend the homeland. Yeah. Let's keep in broad terms, defend the homeland.
Yeah, for sure.
So one of the things that I'm very passionate and interested in writing about is about critical infrastructure, power. The power grids.
Yeah. Okay.
Cyber right now in this era that we are in is not only advantageous, but also dangerous.
Yeah. Okay.
Because a cyber attack can occur on a power grid on the East Coast. Bro, you shut down the whole power grid on the whole East Coast. Do you know how many people will die? Do you know how much of a collapse that would cause economically? Gas, no internet, no cell phone, no banking, those are examples of what just critical infrastructure
you want to cause an apocalypse
of what literally an apocalyptic time would occur of, put it this way, a natural disaster. When a hurricane comes and it takes out the power, look how much of preparation and things we have to do that can cause a problem where it literally sets us back to almost a Stone Age.
Literally,
look at all this we have right now. Lights, this, everything and whatnot, bro. Cut the power. We're done.
Yeah, that's it.
It's done. Everything is done. Now we are back to how we go into survival mode. Yeah. You really do.
Literally. There goes the supermarket. So where the fuck is your food coming from?
A perfect example. Yeah. There goes the meat. There goes the pharmacy. Hospitals. Perfect example. I like saying that. Look at this particular case. What occurred in North Carolina, the Moore County power outage. That was something that someone went there and manipulated the system. They knew where to go. They knew where to hit it. They know what to do. Made national headlines and affected the state crazily. Domestic terrorism, essentially.
One guy.
A domestic issue that turned into a national issue of how vulnerable power grids and infrastructures are, to this day. Yeah. So I'm interested in researching that topic to understand, not only assessing and bringing, a little bit of clarity on like how vulnerable critical infrastructure in regards to power grids are with natural disasters, things like that. Right now, a storm can come through and it'll knock down these power lines right here. Yeah. This whole complex out here is done.
Well, I mean, a storm comes through and we lose power sometimes.
So
that's
right.
natural afternoon.
Right. So that's just really trying to understand how vulnerable it really is.
Yeah.
You know, it's extremely vulnerable. And there's so many ways probably on how to skin the cat, whatever, you know, like doing this, like, well, assessing this and assessing that. But it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. It really is. So that's essentially with that on like where I'm pursuing now with this and seeing how maybe if I can tie in some things that I wrote in the master's program can help support that, you know, dissertation with like criminal groups that pose a threat to the United States internally.
Yeah.
That can use that to potentially target areas and populations to control them. You know, it'd be horrible, you know, to be in a major city in Orlando and you have an insurgency emerge or something, and they say, we're not going to go on strike, we're not going to go killing people or something like that. That's old school. We're going to go cut the power grid. Bro.
Wow. Yeah.
You know, that's vulnerable. You know,
literally, like, again, how many people are going to die just by cutting the power grid?
And that happened in North Carolina because you're able to think, you know, how vulnerable this area of critical infrastructure really is. Cyber, you know, I can't imagine how many cyber attacks probably go on in the world to certain areas of critical infrastructure that, you know, these people are constantly deterring or, you know, going against someone else. So that's pretty much it.
Well, no, that's funny because I always get freaking ads on my phone for cybersecurity to go to school for, so that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
So back to the topic on, like, you know, Mayans and the
Mayans. Well, I mean, because again, like what you said, like, it does tie into a Mayan because we're talking about civilization and reality as is, and what you're exploring is how it used to be in almost like not prehistoric, but I guess. Yeah.
Right, yeah. And I think that's like, you know, you're going along the lines of what we're saying of like how humanity came to be what it is today, you know? Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of scientists and a lot of people that are very passionate that have been really trying to introduce this theory of, you know, the fingerprints of what these people left behind, of who they are, you know, what was the purpose, why did they come, or who were they to begin with, or how did they get here? So it's really piecing together that historical past for us to understand, man, could we really be descendants from that? Or are we just like, what are we, man? Yeah. There's so many books that I've read to this day that it's like, who are we? Yeah, those are extremely fascinating and magnificent. Give credit, dude, to like those authors who sat down and constructed something so complex, but yet digestible for someone to read, to understand a simple title. That's like, who are we? Who really are we?
Literally, who? You know? Oh my God!
I read a book that I recently finished too as well. That was called Sapiens.
Okay.
And it was a white book, you know, and it just said sapiens, you know, for the term Homo sapiens, of what we, you know, descend from that particular area. Yeah. So it had a thumbprint on it on the book, and it was just a fingerprint. Yeah. And so that's what it was, like sapiens, who we are, who we evolved from and everything. But it was a crazy, you know, complex, you know, like crazy. It was like this fucking thick. Yeah. So it was really thick. It was really thick, but it took me, you know, months, you know, to really
I can imagine what the fuck.
But sometimes I go back to it and really to listen to it and just kind of like really read it. It's like, is that what this means? You know? Yeah. But again, that's just me because I truly devote myself to studying. I like education. I like studying. Yeah. You know, I really do. I'm not a NASA astronaut. I'm not a doctor, you know, who does surgery or not, but I'm passionate about devoting myself to a specific area of study and being able to do that. And I love archaeology. I love all that type of stuff. That's awesome. I got mine recently. I got my open water scuba diving permit. Word. So I've been doing scuba diving, you know, cool. as well. I went scuba diving in Puerto Rico, and that was not just an experience, but it was also something that exposed me to like, wow, like a different part of the world.
There's another part of
the world. So I guess what I'm trying to tell you too as well is like, you know, you don't have to be religious and you don't have to be like, you know, crazy into these type of things. But what I've begun to read is that all these archaeologists and scientists and people who refer to the ancient texts or the Bible on this flood and this cataclysmic event that might have occurred, what they're saying is that, can you imagine the amount of things that are under the ocean that we have not discovered yet, that are there, that could potentially answer the questions that we may be looking for, and they're just sitting underwater, and we're on top of it?
Well, I heard this theory of what Pangea actually is. It's just it's really just the flood. So parts that were once land are now ocean.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's really it. We didn't separate and break off. No. It's just the water rose.
So that's crazy to think that way because, we have the tectonic plates and all that stuff and everything, certain shifts, the world's shifted in certain ways and everything, all these things. But there are parts of the world where the southernmost tip of South America was once connected probably to Antarctica.
Yeah.
And that's just probably underwater.
Oh my gosh.
So imagine, again, a small glimpse I'm giving you, man, for those who are listening to be able to just kind of conceptualize is, can you imagine the things that are still underwater that are probably left waiting to be discovered that are probably either way more advanced than what we thought or are probably like, oh, these are the people we've been trying to find.
Yeah.
Like ancient super stuff.
Yeah. Wow.
Who knows, man? I mean, we don't even know, like, we know more about space than we actually know about the depths of our oceans.
Yeah. Literally. What the fuck?
I mean, that thing that submarine that imploded, like that thing that went down was like 2.5 miles underwater, dude.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Like it's pitch black.
Literally.
What
are you even doing down there?
You don't know what's down there or anything like that. So it's like it goes past our understanding of what we know of depth.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Oh my god.
Like you're so deep down into the ground or into the ocean that like I passed my deepest level that I think I could go, but you're still going down.
You're still going.
That's crazy.
That's insane because again, it's pitch black. Where are you going?
How do you conceptualize that depth?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't. No, you can't.
It might as well be a black hole.
You can't, and that's scary, man. Like what lives down there, dude, or like what could be down there.
Yeah.
All sorts of things. So
shit.
The most intriguing thing, reeling it back into the whole Aztecs and Mayans, the most intriguing thing to me about these particular, people was their understanding of the stars, man.
Wow.
Planets, like all these things. We refer back to a lot of the understandings we have of planets, the solar system, constellations, and things like that. I truly wonder, how did they get that knowledge?
Yeah.
How?
Wow.
How?
Literally.
How? These were things that, were taught in school,
and
it's fascinating. The Mayans were some of the most advanced, mathematicians, trigonometry, geometry, very great at shapes, all these things and everything. You're probably going to put a whole bunch of like formulas coming over my head, like, cannot compute at this time.
It's my face.
But like, again, how?
Yeah.
So that to me
it makes a lot of fucking sense.
That to me intrigues me a lot on the understanding that they have of the stars and the solar system and being able to. Some people probably like, dude, Rico, man, like, dude, forget about it, dude. That's just Indians, whatever. And I'm just like, no, man, like, I don't know about you, but like, but me, dude, I'm over here like, in case you didn't know, their understanding of the solar system and things. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't know what we wouldn't know. We wouldn't know what we know now based off of their fundamentals and their understandings that they had of the solar system already. So that helped us really, truly, again, pivot, push humanity in a direction that we are like, whoa, we're really pushing. Like we don't have the pedal to the metal. We have the pedal to the floor.
To the floor, like
pushing it through the floorboard.
I thought this was a scooter. This is a fucking rocket ship.
Yeah, it's no longer taking a scooter to the ankle, man. It's now we officially boom, got plowed, and we're over here holding on to the bus like, yo, yeah, man. But again, it's very fascinating with that because we're always seeking.
Yeah.
You're seeking, I'm seeking, I'm constantly learning. You're always wanting to understand something in what you want. I'm always trying to understand something in what I want. I'm always trying to, figure things out. And there's people who, devote themselves in different ways to these things. And I think that is also a very impressive behavior that we as a human species have where when we see something, we got to figure it out. We do it. And then what do we do after that? We replicate it.
Oh my God. How many times? There's the whole reason why we're even sitting on this podcast right now.
We replicated it, now perfect. Yeah. Perfect example too as well. Aviation.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for the Wright brothers who did that and took that step, what did we do? We did it. We proved the theory. We replicated it. Now what? Now we have jets.
Fucking jets.
Now we're going to space.
We have first class.
Now we're going to space.
That's crazy.
We got all sorts of things and whatnot. So truly, I think humanity is just in a really great position to potentially leap We are now in that stage where there are so many things going on in the world, and people are like, what's going on with the world, man? Like, all these things are being introduced and everything and whatnot. I got it. There's some really horrible things going on in the world right now, and I acknowledge that, and I see that. But I'm trying to be positive in the sense of trying to present things, on here so people can really see. Again, we are in a revolutionary point of humanity where things are going to change either for the good that are going to catapult us further than what we ever thought, or it could bring us potentially to more conflict and tension. Because now we're catching up with each other. Now
that's that scary duality that you're talking about.
Right. So then it comes to that topic again, great power competitions. This is things we see all over the internet, man. Now we have competitors. There is no longer one all-being nation that's potentially, just going to be that prime one that takes it forward. Everybody's interested on wanting to be able to, produce and guide humanity towards that, where it can either steer it into the wrong direction, or it can steer it into the right direction, or hopefully catapult us as a whole in unity. So that's why I do think that space programs are important, because it unites different parts of the world to pursue one thing together. And it's just, we're here to explore the heavens, and we're here to just, go. And, you have Japanese astronauts, Russian astronauts, if people astronauts from India, all sorts of
it's the only time we actually see humans work together as one. It really is.
I think that is a very interesting point that you say, because I agree with that, because it's crazy to see that we here, let's put it this way, down here on Earth, we see how how conflicted we can be. But in regards to space, there is an interest of unity and effort together on collaborating to explore. And to really see this, and it's not, we did this or we did that. I think it's going to get to a point too as well, where potentially we're going to see who can get to Mars first.
Literally.
Who can put a human being on Mars first.
Wow.
But again, history repeats itself. We were racing to see who can be the first ones not only into space, but also racing who could put the man on the moon. The Russians beat us to get out into space, but we beat them when we got to the moon.
Exactly.
So again, history repeats itself in the sense where we're now exploring, is Mars really going to be that next big thing? Because that's a far fucking way. So not only do we got to train, humans and people to be able to, I guess, stay so constricted to either a little capsule or a vessel where all they might have to be, just traveling in space for 200 something days, looking at the same thing, pitch black. Like, that is a psychological, I'm assuming, thing that people probably go through. How do you test that? The likelihood of survival, the health benefits, so much things. But again, it's that race where is humanity potentially going to catapult that way? And we're going to freaking be like, dude, now we're on Mars. Now Earth is just like a subtopic. And then now it's like, then how do we develop the technology to get to Mars quicker? What a gateway does that open?
Literally, it's gonna get to the point where you haven't been to Mars yet, fucking loser.
Imagine where you're on Mars, and you'll be able to talk on the internet with someone on tomorrow. Where you at? Yeah, I'm over here. Again, we're just theorizing some crazy things, man.
We're just having fun with words, right
now. But it's a perfect example, dude, of what I'm trying to say, of how far technology has gotten. Exactly. For instance, back in the day before, you could not be able to call someone internationally. You got to send a telegram or something, or send a pigeon, to go.
There is that starting point, and there is that starting point. Understanding of how the universe is working is pretty.
It's astronomical, man.
It is. It's like, it's okay, astronomical. So if they understood, then why can't we just go there? As I'm saying. That's I guess the future generation.
Or did they have who did they have that gateway?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Where was that time? There's the reason why there was Mexican bodies.
Or something. Like those
Mexican alien bodies. My bad.
Something like that. The archaeologists found those things.
Literally.
So you brought up a good point that I really wanted to touch on too as well. You said future leaders and future generations of what you said, and it's like, we are in a major. Again, I'm gonna re-emphasize this again. Humanity is in a very, very interesting spot right now, because again, we are evolving, we are revolutionizing, we are modernizing, we are going further, and we are seeing that change is going to come a lot quicker than what we want.
Yeah.
And leaders, in the government, around the world and whatnot, that generation of leadership is eventually going to phase out.
Yeah. Well, we're seeing that now.
We're seeing that now, right? We're seeing, for example, I think I read this. It was on the news recently. Mitt Romney.
Okay.
He said, for example, he is no longer going to run, or choose to be reelected or anything like that, or run for the presidential race, because he said that it is now the time of the next generation of leaders to take lead into these complex problems.
Yeah. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Well, and dude, and that seems like that's what you're pursuing with your education. It really does, because you look outward, you look inward to out. So is that something that you're pursuing, like politics? Because again, it just seems like you're optimistic, but you're realistic with the way that everything is going. Technology, with the way that people in our generation even understand how the world works.
Yeah. I would say, right now, the way I view myself right now, I feel like I'm growing so much. Yeah. In such a personal way. And I love it because education is truly molding me to understand perspectives in so many different ways. That's beautiful. I love being able to have, and I'm going to answer your question. Mm-hmm. And I just want to like elaborate on so many things, because I think
you see, he's a politician, folks. I'm just kidding.
Personally, man, like, I really enjoy sitting down and having a conversation with people of different pathways, different beliefs, different perspectives, and we can agree to disagree, or we can simply just have a conversation that encompasses, wow, I never thought of it that way.
Exactly.
That's crazy, because my studies have been based off of an American Western styled thought process.
Yes, sir.
And you may be from a different continent in the world, and you might think, well, this, and this, and that. And that's like, I enjoy those perspectives a lot.
Yeah.
Because that's what truly really gives me not only the humbleness to understand that it can't always be my way or the highway, or like the only way to do it is this way because this is all I know, but to understand that greater spectrum that you're talking about, that greater, bigger picture of really seeing it. So as of right now, I'm 27 years old, I'm still young buck, but I do maybe potentially would like to explore maybe the avenue of being able to be involved in that area of being a greater leader, of, being able to lead people and stuff like that.
And don't diminish your accomplishments. You're 27, but you've accomplished more than most 27-year-olds.
I really appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Your accomplishments, your experience, like your perspective, again, most 27-year-olds don't have that type of perspective to view something that wide range.
I appreciate that, man, a lot, because like I said, it doesn't matter how far you go in life. People are always going to choose their main destiny and their main purpose, and that's fine. I applaud it. You have a personal destiny where you truly like sharing stories and you're doing the whole thing with the podcast. I admire it. I applaud it, because this is essentially your calling.
Yeah,
you like it. You like it, and you're called. As I'm sure there's like a little. I saw this. There was this little thing on Instagram. It was like a little audio thing that said it was like you're called, and it goes, You can't change it. Yeah. You can't run from it. No. And so it
hunts you down.
And ultimately, the universe and your destiny will, whether you like it or not, will put you in the position where you have to pursue that destiny and do it, because that's what you were crafted to do. Yeah. Whether if you were a nurse, whether if you are a doctor, whether if you are a teacher, whether if you are a realtor, whether if you're a cop, whether if you're, anything, a pediatric, you're a surgeon, you're a chaplain, you're something,
audio engineer,
whatever,
audio engineer, and then I'm podcaster, now I'm producing.
You're a mechanic, whatever, all that stuff.
Yeah.
You all have a niche.
Yes.
Everybody has that ability to discover that this is what I do and this is what I'm going to devote to. Now, when you ignore it, it becomes almost sometimes difficult to figure out, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
But all along, you've known I'm pretty good at this. And I try to tell people, stick with what you like, do it, and finally, do it. That's it. Wow. Just go do it, man. Because if you limit yourself,
makes sense.
If you limit yourself towards the things that you want to do, I applaud a lot people who are very disciplined.
Yeah.
Because to a certain extent, that motivation was questioned.
Oh my God.
because their motivation was questioned on the part where they failed so many times.
Yep.
And then it turned into a lesson. Then it turned into an obstacle.
Yeah.
Then it turned into an accomplishment.
Yeah.
And they remained consistent and resilient at pursuing what they wanted to achieve. And they got it. And they got it. And after they got it, they mastered it. Mm-hmm. They remastered it. Mm-hmm. And then what's the most beautiful thing you can do towards humanity? You pay it forward and you show the other person how you got it, and you go. That's my perspective, and that's my opinion. You know, a lot of people may not be that way, and I understand, you know, I understand. But I do think that the biggest thing you can do towards society and in general to the world that will never affect you is at some point in time, you were inspired by somebody, you were mentored by somebody, you were educated by somebody, you were corrected by somebody, you were disciplined, you fell, you busted your ass, and you were forged by those principles and those people you came across for your greater purpose. So you might have to understand that in your pathway, you might have something that you do, music producing and audio programming and all these things, the podcast that you might not be relevant at all towards me, towards I'm doing. And I accept that. But what I also must accept and be open-minded to is to understand that you might have a perspective and a sort of way of communicating with me that might in fact change. Damn. Maybe I did need to hear that. You know?
No, I feel that.
Like maybe I didn't. Maybe I did need to hear that. There were parts in my career I failed miserably. I failed miserably and embarrassed myself, but badly. You know? And if it wasn't for those obstacles and those people along the way who corrected me, who, you know, in short terms really scuffed me up and told me, you know, I'm going to ensure that if you fuck this up again, you're really gonna feel it. And it's like, you know, and dude, just those mistakes that truly put you in those moments of complete discomfort, because it is you versus you. And you are facing that obstacle. You are facing that obstacle. You are literally just going after it, and you are in that moment of discomfort that you now have left the threshold of where everybody else is at over here, and you're right here.
Holy shit.
So there's so many beautiful mottos. Again, like, do you dare? Do you dare to win?
Then you gotta fucking start.
Yeah, dude. It's just a thing, man. Many people are so accustomed to, we love, and I'm gonna quote somebody directly here that emphasized it really well, and I love it because I listen to them every day. David Goggins. He said this. We love being around people. We love partying. We love doing all these things and everything and whatnot. But he emphasized, sometimes you got to get away from that. And you got to figure yourself out who you really are. You got to go dark. He says that, you know.
Have to.
And I finally understand what that is, because if you are so accustomed to doing things for the acceptance of others, doing things to be recognized by others, for the approval of others, and to not be judged, or you don't want to fail because you don't want to be, embarrassed, or you don't want to like, oh, that's embarrassing, I don't want to do that. Like, oh, my friends are going to think of that. It's like, bro, I don't know about you, but at the end of the day, I'm the one who's going to accomplish the things that I want to do. And if you're doing things for the approval of others, you are going to completely live a judged and unsatisfied life. If you don't branch out, if you don't branch out and you don't expose yourself to levels of discomfort and you stay complacent, the complacency will kill you.
Yes, sir.
And you will not grow. You will not grow at all.
You don't know how many times in the beginning, when me starting music, I was told I was tone deaf. Stop. This isn't your direction. Don't do this. And I'm just like, but I like it too much. I can't let it go. I have to keep going. I've already started, and my body doesn't want to stop. So if I'm tone deaf, I'm gonna take singing classes. I'm gonna figure out, I'm gonna figure out what music theory is. I'm gonna figure out what these things, so like when you say having that discipline and having that willingness to fail and fall on your face, that is the most important lesson that you're gonna learn.
Yeah, it's an important lesson because, again, failure is gonna teach you probably that you really needed that lesson. You probably needed that leap. You probably needed that gut check that probably told you, hey, slow down. You don't know it all. Slow down. And that's what those particular obstacles taught me, that I failed certain things throughout my career that I look back on. Yeah, they were embarrassing as fuck. But then when it took the time for me to go to a leadership school that came up towards my career after being promoted and stuff like that, you have to go through certain leadership courses. And one of the topics was you're going to give a brief on, an obstacle that you went through and how you bounce back from it.
Wow.
And it humbles you.
Yeah.
It humbles you because it teaches you that if you're planning to pursue to be a leader, you cannot be that all being that is like, well, I'm the leader. I'm the most fine cut, person and persona out there.
Nope.
I don't fail. I don't accept failure. Some of the best leaders I've met are the ones who humbly told me I failed this miserably.
Yep.
Completely life-changing, completely really good perspective, completely good. And I, again, applaud people like you and other people we've met, across our life and everything too as well, that can constantly say openly and saying, oh yeah, man, it took me 4 to 5 years. Oh yeah, man, it took me that job for them to tell me no. And mind you, that was their dream job.
Yep.
That was their dream job.
That was everything that they were working for was that moment.
And they got told no. And they got told no. And that's the thing. What do you do?
Well, yeah. Fine.
What do?
You better go find it somewhere else.
And some people, either like, well, then whatever, it's not meant for me or whatnot, and all that stuff. And like, okay, I got there. Again, more ways to skin the cat, but it's how bad do you want it, man?
Yeah. You have to want it.
How bad do you want it? If you don't, if you see it, you envision it, great, go do it. If you can think of it, you're already halfway there, man. You just got to go do it. You're already halfway there. Great quote. Yeah,
literally. Wow. That's an amazing way to put it.
Yeah.
Because technically, you've already started.
If you believe you can, you're halfway there.
You're halfway there. That's it.
You don't even have the doubt.
That's crazy. Exactly.
The other part of that is the spectrum is
learning.
cut the doubt that you have. I don't have the comprehension to understand that. I can't be an astrophysicist, whatever. I'm not an astrophysicist, an example. But like, I can't get a doctorate. I'm not too smart enough for that.
That's crazy. Yeah, no, exactly. That was the first thing I said.
Believe you can.
Believe the podcast.
Yeah, believe you can, and you're halfway there.
Yeah. Wow.
Believe you can, and you're halfway there. That's all the other stuff, dude, is probably you're going to have to be in the fucking grind. You're going to have to be, working your ass off.
Yeah.
You're going to have long nights. You're going to be studying hard. I do firmly say this, that pursuing certain things will come with a cost.
Yeah.
But the prize is always just as fulfilling, because that is where greatness awaits you. Yes, another thing that I always heard that was very impacting for me and ingrained in me, the extra mile is never crowded. The extra mile is never crowded. So if you are
that's a clip.
So if you're going to go pursue something, cool, go do it. But going further for yourself, faster, further, harder, however things you want to do, the extra mile is never crowded. And that is where those specific ones who have become professionals, who have become these great motivational figures and whatnot, went that extra mile. Yeah. They went that extra mile for themselves. Those who went that extra mile to explore space. Those who went that extra mile to probably find the next cure for cancer. Yeah. All those kind of things. That's what it is. And so if you reeling this back in, if you focus on complacency, you will not see the growth that you are looking for. You are going to see the same results every time. Wow. You're going to produce the results.
Yeah.
You're going to produce the results.
Makes sense. Yeah.
But if you don't break the chain to do something different to get that result that you are looking for, it will not change unless you do something in the change within you.
Yes.
So again, finally, the obstacle is the way.
Yeah.
The obstacle is the way. If you are questioning, this pathway is too hard, I keep finding too many obstacles, the obstacle is the way. Because on the other side of the obstacle is the greatness that awaits you.
Yeah.
And
that's
you can't
literally the answer that you're looking for.
No one that earned something so worthwhile and so good in their life that got them the achievement they wanted to didn't say, yeah, it was a smooth path. The whole time it was obstacles, man. Athletes, scientists, doctors, astronauts, soldiers, myself, who's had, a very great, humble, and honorable military career path that I love. I truly love it, man. I truly love it because it has definitely molded me. It has given me experiences. I've worked with people of different capacities, knowledge, man, that have taught me so much.
Yeah.
And that is what I'm trying to convey.
I feel that.
If you don't break that complacency, man, you don't truly challenge yourself, you're never going to know what you were made of to begin with. And everything that you ever envisioned was just always going to be a thought. And you're going to look at yourself in the mirror and you're going to say, man, what could have been if I would have done that?
And that's that Matt Dragon, that's me, my thing. That's my biggest fucking fear ever. It's looking back and being like, fuck, why didn't I try?
Yeah. Why didn't you try? Yeah. Right. Those are sometimes often questions that, you know, I admit that. I admit that there are things that I should have tried, but I didn't do it because of fear. Because I told myself I can't. I don't have what it takes.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh my
god. And it took that self-chiseling and sometimes, you know, the mentoring of people to say, why didn't you do this to begin with?
Yep.
And it's well, because I was afraid. Afraid of what? I was like afraid of failing. Sorry. And they were like, you know, you don't do things in fear of failing. You know, you have to accept that you're not supposed to grasp it the first time and everything and be this perfect person. You won't be. But the ones who do become those elite, that become those, you know, great people of leadership are the ones that accept it. At some point in this journey, I probably will fail. I probably will. You can't. You. There's just no way. It is inevitable because failure is what teaches you the growth you need.
Yeah.
So if you're going into a pathway, I'm doing this because this one has the least points of failure. I hate to tell you, man, at some point you might fail.
Yeah.
At some point, it could be in anything. And I'll be honest with you, some of the obstacles that I failed at, I didn't think that I was going to fail at all. And I ended up failing something stupid. And what did it teach me? It taught me that I needed to slow down. I needed to pay attention. I needed to look around. I need to be a little bit more aware.
Yeah, because I thought I understood, but
because I thought I was hot shit. But then when I went and fucking do it, I completely, you know, blew myself out of the park. And I'm over here like, oh yeah, dude, yeah, you really talked yourself up. And I'm like, you know. And what did it cost me? It cost me that I should have slowed down. Stop trying to compete with people all the time. Reassess yourself. Look at yourself and say you are the only competition is with yourself, not everybody else. If they get there before you, great. But at the end of the day, I want to get there. That's it.
That's one of my bars in my new album.
Oh yeah?
I'm only in competition with myself.
That's it, baby.
That's so fire.
That's it.
Yo, oh man, dude. Okay. So to bring it to rein it all in. I know I asked you if you wanted to be a politician. What is one policy that you would want to push?
If I was in those positions and if I was in those shoes, again, you know, I'm speaking very openly.
Oh yeah. This is big if again.
Yeah, big if.
We don't know
for sure
where anything's going.
I think if there were to be one thing that I would probably try to pursue, man, is that I would try to maybe introduce like a new educational reform. Okay. And what I mean by that is that I would probably introduce programs into schools that would benefit students who either choose to go to college or don't want to go to college and they can still have a skill. Where am I going with this? Okay. Where I'm going with this is that I'm saying is that, let's be honest, there are some people that don't want to go to college, and I'll be honest with you, I at one point did not want to go to college. Yeah. All right? So sometimes people are very skilled. They have a great ability to do certain things that I can't, like being an electrician. I can't be an electrician, dude. I'll fry the house and I'll fry myself. You know, so there'll be
facts.
You know, the whole county is fried if I'm an electrician. You know, because they're gonna say, "Don't pull the black plug."
Whoa, I was already pulling on that one. Dude.
Yeah, dude. Oh, dude, I cut that one. You know, so and that's an example. You know of what I'm trying to say. So with that, I guess what I would do is that I would probably do an educational reform. Okay. And I would really pursue to increase the wages of teachers.
Oh my!
I really would. I would increase the wages of teachers.
That's beautiful.
I would increase the wages of teachers because ultimately schools are the foundation of what we learn today. Yeah. And there are great professors and great teachers that I have met today and in my life that I have met. And I'm like, man, that was a high school teacher, you know?
Yeah.
And imagine, you know, and like,
I have a few of those.
Come on, man. You know, let's be honest. You know, you're a teenager, dude. You know, sometimes you don't care. You know, whatever the teacher's telling you, not. But but again, it goes back to the topic of what I told you. Yeah, it goes back to the topic of what I told you. It's like, you know, I wish I would have understood what they were telling me at that time because now I understand when I'm connecting the dots. Yes, you know, and so that specifically is something that I would probably introduce. That I love education, and I would really, really, really pursue to revamp the educational system in the U.S. And to make it a very competitive and great education system where not only we are getting a great education for our kids, because let's be honest, I want to have a family one day. Yeah. You know, and you want to send your kid to a good school.
Yes.
And you also want a school that's going to give great education, great fundamentals of education that teaches them. You know, for example, learning things such as doing their taxes.
Yeah. That was my next question, buddy. Okay.
Dude. Tell me if in high school did we learn anything about did we
fucking taxes?
Did we know any of the forms that they were, the W-2s, all that stuff? No.
No. I wasn't taught about a credit card.
You weren't taught about interest rate, nothing like that. So these are examples, not against you, because I was also in those shoes. That particular knowledge was dependent on being taught at home.
Yeah.
Your parents had to teach you, like, hey, here's a debit card. Hey, open your bank account. Hey, here's your first bill. Go pay your bill. Go things like that. Those are things that are taught at home. And agreed. Those are things that also go with your upbringing, how you raise your child and whatnot, all those things. But I think it is important that if we introduce those critical, important variables that people should know of, that when they do graduate high school, they're 18, they're on their own, they can make decisions on themselves, at least some part of the high school program between 9 through 12, that after this grade and between this grade, there will be knowledge of what is a mortgage, what is, taxes, what is this? Just learning a little bit more about.
No, but it's fair because
learning more about, government, understanding how laws are passed. They got to go through this. The president doesn't have all control of everything,
and he shouldn't.
Understanding those things, but that's that system of checks and balances.
Yes, sir.
And so those are things that are extremely important, that a population that is youth that is evolving. Okay, if they don't want to be a doctor or whatever, they don't want to go to college, they're not good at it, that's no problem. But then schools advocating for skills that contribute to a student's ability to be able to have something that they can then do in the outside world. If a student is very mechanically inclined and really good at cars and all that type of stuff, why am I going to force him to have to go be a doctor or want to go be a chemist or something like that?
Literally.
If there's
putting him in a creative writing class,
or if he wants, or if he wants to be, for example, a master mechanic in diesel mechanics, if that's what that person wants to do and they can develop a great skill and they have the aptitude, which I don't have the aptitude to diesel mechanic, that is a huge win in my eyes as to, for example, this is a lengthy topic, but we're just touching the surface on some things of what you do, because, okay, well, what schools are you going to do that's going to do that? Well, they're probably going to be a technical school, things like that,
Exactly.
It'd be a school that probably gives them, their reading, writing, arithmetic, and their history classes, and then certain parts of the week is devoted to skill bridging, where they are devoted to the skill that they want to go to.
Exactly.
Maybe you can even increase, federal funding for some schools that say, this school is known to produce some of the best mechanics that come out of the school, who are some of the best mechanics we have now today. And it's an example.
Yes.
But I do think that when we educate a society through the basic principles of, you might have someone who's very interested in, a chemist, an astrophysicist and whatnot, great, they're going to do that. Cool. Yeah. But introducing those to education, man, I think that teachers deserve a little bit more of the respect that they deserve to have increased wages. They deal with 20 to 40 students a day. There's some of these teachers, especially in elementary school, are covering more than 6 topics a day, meaning that from 9 to 10, they're probably teaching reading. From 10 to 12, they're teaching math because it's a hard topic or whatever.
They're doing that all day, all year round. And then the summer comes and they're out of a job. And my son's teacher is a preschool teacher. She went back to work in McDonald's for the summer. And I mean,
that's very unfortunate.
Yeah, and again, no hit at nobody who works at McDonald's. Get your money the way you do. But this lady is in charge of our fucking children.
Right, and she was someone that had to not only go to school, go to education, had to go take a test to be a teacher that allows her to teach in the county that she's in, and all that type of stuff. So it's just
special needs teacher. So it's just
so. Look at that.
Yeah.
Even more challenging.
Even way more challenging.
Even more challenging. And these are people who have a skill setting of not only being able to teach, but a patience.
Yeah.
That I probably don't have.
No facts. What?
But it's an example. So I think personally, in my opinion, if that were to be an avenue that I do approach and I do have great interest in, I would really like to introduce something that says, if there's something that we can do to truly impact our youth and the next generation of leaders that would come, is how we educate them.
Wow.
Because how we educate them is truly going to play a pivotal role, that when they do come to, hopefully, I aspire that when I reach that level of leadership and being able to do that, we have a generation that's coming up powerful, good,
and they're ready,
competitive, good, and they
Competent.
are competent, and they are able to then go ahead, execute these decisions, doing these things. They're educated and they're good. That's great. You know, that's what we need to build. And I feel like in general, the world and the U.S. overall too is coming in a point where the next generation of leaders have to dictate that.
Yeah,
it could be us. You know, it might be us.
It is. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it is us.
It's gonna be one of us. It's gonna be a couple of us. Exactly.
Yeah, again, it is gonna be us.
That older generation that used to make those decisions are phasing out. They are dying.
You know, they're 80, they're 90 years old. You know, all this stuff, whatever, man. Like that stuff's gonna come to an end eventually, and there's gonna be a new cycle of leaders that is gonna come through, and it's gonna be complete new faces, complete new things, complete new ideas, complete new ways of doing things. You can make decisions and you can do things while still honing the same values of what the U.S. government consists of. While having innovative ideas that truly make an impact towards people, so we can push this country into the direction that it needs to go, and we are then guiding our society to be that next generation that is constantly paying forward to others.
Yeah, and that's education.
My perspective, I'm a huge advocate for education in that way. Yeah. You know, that's why some schools probably have more prestige than others. Great doctors probably come from Harvard. You know, an example. That's that. So that's where I'm trying to get to, that maybe if we are able to not only at the most general level of education from public schools to private schools, that there is education that is offered that is not only greater and better and also very good, that is actually realistic sometimes. Because I'll be honest, there were some math classes that I took, I've yet to use them today.
Yeah, I feel you. I know exactly what you're saying.
Perfect example. You get what I'm saying?
Yep.
Perfect example. So that's a perfect example. Like some people, like, you know, I say like they took like an astronomy class or whatever. Yeah. They've never used it to this day.
No, dude. I feel like, and that's how I feel about most of the things I learned in school.
Right.
And it was I feel like I really didn't learn anything until I got out of school.
And then if you look at that, okay, well, you know, that sounds like a good idea. What about the secondary and tertiary effects about that? What if that person doesn't like it and whatever? Well, you know, okay, at least they have a skill that they can be dependent off, where they can work, they can produce income, you know, things like that. They have that knowledge, because that's what education is about. Education is about evolving, growing, discovering the person that you are, presenting new ideas and everything, and becoming something for yourself. And you find purpose within that. You know, some of these programs and some of these career paths take a lot of time. You know, like being an astronaut, that takes time. It takes time, but they pursue that. Yeah. But in that nutshell, that's essentially one of the things that I guess I found very intriguing, is like really helping the educational system, man. I love school, man. I love school. Like, I love school, man. Like, if I were to like go to a high school right now and one were to tell me, like, you know, I don't know, I wish they could like have like a mechanic institution right there on the high school, because it teaches them those basic fundamentals, and then they can get, you know, minimal certifications that allow them to get, you know, those things that they need for those jobs. I'm speaking very broadly.
No, but
for them, when they apply to that technical school that they really want to go to, like, you know, I want to work on jets, you know, and it's like, you know,
literally,
man, you know, like they have that aptitude. They can take the test, you know, they can take the test for, you know, for like, you know, their basic reading, math, and science, but then a test that is very, very encompassed on mechanics.
Yeah, no, and that's what my brother-in-law, that's what he's going to school for right now, is jet mechanics. Yeah. So and that's a thing, and he didn't know that's something that he would even be interested in until he started working for JetBlue.
Yeah. So yeah, you know, perfect. Making, you know, also like, you know, like I like flight schools and stuff like that. Commercial pilots, you know, those are very hard, you know, like very hard career paths sometimes to get into. But like, if we start introducing those things and really teaching, you know, at an early stage, like, you know, these are the things that they like, you know, why not? Because then we're producing effective and really good people who want to be part of the workforce and whatnot.
I agree.
So again, like I said, it's just a perspective. It's what I see, but I'm really passionate about that. Like if another example that I like, if a student, for example, is very interested in agriculture, they really like producing for the economy, farming and all that stuff and everything, man, that's pretty cool. Yeah. You know, that's pretty cool. Let them go be that. Yeah. You know, let them go be that. Let them go do those things. But also, you know, like, again, the school system having those programs that teach them basic economic things.
Yeah.
This is what a loan is. This is what, this is what credit card debt is. This is what an interest rate is. This is what collateral is.
Oh my God.
This is what escrow is.
I would go back and take that class. I need all of those classes.
I'll be honest with you. There's sometimes I'll go back to them because it's important to know them.
Yes.
But you don't. What's the unfortunate thing about this? You don't learn from it until you go through it. And and that's why people are stuck in such pickles.
Yeah.
Because they're like, man, like I didn't know that. Like I didn't know this or whatever. Like
literally
all that type of stuff. Like people who probably go to college and then they go get their first car when they're signing at a 15% interest rate. And it's like,
and they're like, yeah, I want my first car.
Yeah, and it's like, yo, hold on. Like, what are you doing?
Right, 15%. Like if I would have known,
yeah,
I wouldn't be in debt right now.
Yeah, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing?
Exactly.
All those kind of things. Just simply those understandings that I feel like sometimes would not only, again, they would have benefited me as the way that I look at it.
Yeah.
Because there are people who sometimes don't have that perfect upbringing and don't have sometimes those resources and those things.
Well, I wanted to go into that. A lot of people have young parents. My parents were young, so what I learned in school, they pretty much learned in school, and they weren't taught about mortgages and escrows, and they just recently bought their first home because they didn't know they could have bought a home 20 years ago. They just didn't realize
simple thing too as well, down payments, how to buy a home.
Exactly.
What is the process of buying a home? What is the process of buying properties? Like things like that are important that are not taught in school at all. And you can go to a great college right now and be a great degree in business administration, all these things and whatever, but those basic fundamentals of, how taxes work, interest rates and all that things, how to balance a checkbook, how to do all those things. Again, you're probably like, Rico, those aren't relevant no more. Okay, got it, because we got so many, of course, things like this that helps out with all that type of stuff.
Whoa.
But you still might want to understand what's an overdraft.
It's true. How to balance a checkbook. I sell beats online, and I sell beats to actual people just randomly through DMs and stuff. I was telling my girl, I was like, I don't know how to make a spreadsheet.
Right.
I need to know how to make a spreadsheet. Who has this beat? How much did they pay for it? How much money did I make this month? I mean, stuff like that. Like,
here's a perfect example. We have someone, for example, that like wants to be a business owner, right? Yeah. They want to own a restaurant, right? That because they like cooking. And then through school, if we were to introduce those kind of programs like culinary and whatnot and everything, those are technical schools. They have those and whatnot. Great. But how are they going to start a business?
Exactly.
You have your licenses and everything, but they got to know what are articles of organizations. You got to register that business to the state for taxes. And also, so if schools were to potentially teach those things, then we would be able to have a very good progressive, probably, population, man, who can be able to help.
I will be able to help. It's something that you'll be able to understand,
be able to provide, man. Like
provide so for many people and for society.
So many people who start a small LLC.
Yeah,
there is no cheat sheet that you may know of that you can go of that gives you a step-by-step, unless you go read Google or these things and web pages of what people write on Reddit and all that stuff, that what you need. So again, that basic understanding of also in the school of like, what is the difference between LLC and an LLP? What is the difference between an Inc. and a corporation?
Yep.
All those things that when people can understand, those little type of things, man. How to be able to do all these other things and all that stuff. How do you make sure that you're, when you register a business and whatnot, it's got to pay taxes.
Yeah.
So having that understanding,
that's important.
Those fundamentals and those things of, if we have our junior level and senior level high school students who are about ready to approach the world at an early age, 18.
I'm turning 29, and I just learned all those things this year. And some of I didn't fucking I heard of LLP, and now I gotta fucking look it up.
But it's like, again, like it's 18 years old. They're approaching that. I remember when I was 18, man, I left to the army. I had $40 in my pocket from my last paycheck from Publix, and I had no idea what I was getting myself into going into the military. I thought it was gonna be a smooth ride, and whoa, dude. Life taught me a lot. Yeah. But sometimes, again, I wish certain things were probably taught a little bit earlier, because it's like you're thrown into the world. Why not, man? Educating,
Literally.
Like educating, man. It's like those financial 101 courses and that way. And you can make it fun too as well, man. You make it fun in a classroom where students like, hey, you're the landlord, you're the renters, you owe him this amount. I know, what does this mean? How much money does it mean? Did you cut the contract? All those things that are important,
Exactly.
And it teaches people, man. It teaches, and you can make it fun, dude.
And that needs to be a core class. I remember, it's funny that you said it, because I had teachers that tried to introduce those things.
Yeah.
But again, it was in 3rd, 4th grade.
Right.
Where I'm not really understanding this. And then when I'm getting to high school where I actually need it.
I had a teacher in high school, I think you might know her too as well, that in our junior, senior year, she was teaching economics class.
Yeah.
And in the economics class, she taught us how, you know, the economy works and things like that and everything. And you need this and you need savings. This is what these kind of savings does. But she always tailored it to teaching American economics, overall, American government and all those things on how things work.
Yeah.
There are these two teachers, man. The American government class. Never forget it. Mr. Baker.
Okay.
Loved him. His teachings of American government stick with me to this day.
Wow.
And so that is not only because he made it fun, attractive for us to understand, bringing up the current events every day we went in class. He would say, "What's going on in the news? What's going on in the news? What's going on in the news?
Okay,
you know, what's going on in the news? You know, write me about this or not. How many House of Representatives? You know, how many people do we have in the House of Representatives? You know, what does it take for a law to pass? You know, what power does the president have? What power does the vice president have? You know, what is a senator? What is the difference between a governor and a senator?
Yeah,
those things.
He was making.
I remember, man, he would drill it into us, but it was fun in the way that he said it.
Yeah,
and so that is what I feel like sometimes would. In my experience, I wish that not only did I went through it, but that others would also have that same educational thing where it's fun. A finance 101 class, man. Yeah. Make it fun, dude. I would love to teach you to go to a high school and say, what are we going to talk about today? Today, we're going to talk about how to buy a car.
Right? Like, what the fuck?
Today, we're going to talk about how to buy a car. You know? Why do you need to put a down payment? No. You know? Like,
literally.
Why is that interest rate so high? I'm not going to sign 15% interest. That's insane.
Exactly.
You know?
That's crazy. Yeah.
Little things like that.
Yeah.
So in overall, really, that kind of sums it, man. That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah.
You know, with how I really see things. But yeah, dude,
I love that.
It's pretty good,
dude. All right, yo, let's kind of put a little ending on this session, dude.
It was some really good fire. Yeah.
Yo,
really good topics,
so many
really good topics,
bro. For fucking my first episode of season 2.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you for letting me come on. You know?
You have any last thing, anything you want to plug? Anything? Your social medias?
Guess I'll leave with this, man. You know, follow me on Instagram at Mr._Rico Suave.
It's somewhere gonna be.
And, you know, it'll probably be here somewhere.
It's definitely in the description below.
Maybe we'll put a couple UFOs or something, and
that'd be fun.
Something like that. But yeah, guys, check it out, Mr. Rico Suave. I know some of you guys have been probably inquiring about the book too as well. Stay tuned. Got a lot of stuff coming in regards to that. You know, up and coming. We are good, and don't worry. Maybe you'll be seeing some news come out soon about it. But, you know, we're moving forward, and it's good, and I promise you guys are going to love it. Thank you, brother, for having me on here. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the content, for the experience, for all these conversations, and I look forward to more. And you know, every time we come on here, it's always like we never get enough time to truly talk about all we want to because it's always so, you know, fast-paced and in a good way.
All that means is that there needs to be another episode.
Oh, yeah, I'm down. I'm down. Absolutely.
And my mom will kill me if I don't tell you she really wants an autographed book of the effort.
Oh, man.
She wants it. She talks about it every time. Like I talk about the podcast. She's like, "Oh, don't forget to tell your friend."
Yeah. Well, bless her heart, man. Like I said, I'll do that. You know, no problem as well. And like I said, I'll be having something. It's under control. You know, just there are certain things that once I do, I gotta wait. That's basically the timing in it. But yeah, I really appreciate that a lot, man. And for those of you guys who are listening, you know, like I said, completely. Just let me know. Yeah, for sure.
Hell yeah.
All right, brother. Well, thank you so much, man. Really appreciate it.
Of course. Yo, this was DragonLand. I'm Matt Dragon. Rico. Fucking first episode. I'll see you guys next time.